Hello everyone, and welcome back. Or thank you for joining us if it's your first time. This is the Mind Wealth Podcast, and my name is Chelsea. Get ready to sit back, relax, and unwind while we chat about all kinds of things. This week, we'll be talking about what is new in the mental health space for 2024, and what some of the future forecasts might be for the field. 1. Psychologists in schools. Psychologists are working to fill the schools with a greater number of people who are equipped to help kids during the increase of mental health issues in the United States. Previously, there was, on average, one psychologist per every 1,127 students. The goal, created by NASP, or the National Association of School Psychologists, is one per every 500 students. And while that still seems like a lot, it's way better than current. Out of all of the areas, rural areas, and the southern states seem to be lacking the most in the needed help. The increasing demand for mental health help within schools, the rise of mental health awareness because of the pandemic, and the increasing rate of life-altering decisions when it comes to young children has spurred on this response. Additional funding from the federal government, in conjunction with school-based mental health service programs, have helped create EDS degrees that have helped in widening the pipeline by training a cohort of individuals already working within education in a 2-year program to specialize them into school psychologists. They have also been retraining people who already work in education with any master's degree to respecialize into school psychology. These trainees spend around 3 years retraining to enter the field, with an additional year being an internship for fully graduating and being able to step into the position. Another way they are looking to increase employees taking up those empty jobs is by increasing job satisfaction, giving stipends, paying internships, and advocating for more federal funding for these positions. And, as the issues of mental health in schools is more frequently discussed, the request for extra or lack of funding and benefits has become easier to argue for. 2. Higher education issues. On the other end of the line, we have higher education burnout. The people who are training everyone are struggling. With the addition of all the work that COVID threw at them by changing the way that their systems work, the increased workload to create those adjustments, and the decreased salary from falling tuition fees has caused an overall shutdown of some major programs and schools. Not only are these schools being shut down and the programs ended, but on top of that, they're passing laws today to silence some of the subjects that these professors would normally be teaching. They are calling for a limitation or completely removing of certain topics that could be considered controversial. But this turmoil hasn't just affected the teachers. As you can imagine, the instability felt within the halls has definitely weighed heavy on the students as well as we watch the academic gap increase over the past few years. The ability of the students to manage their time wisely, a shakier academic foundation because of the gap years where there wasn't much learning from home. All of this leads into more instability and more insecurity in the teaching realm. And then before we settle with all of those things, we have the addition of tools like ChatGPT that just recently dropped, and it's hit the forefront of cheating in academia. It has caused a shifting landscape of how students will be doing their work and how their work will be done in the future. The increasing cost of tuition, the political unrest abound in these institutions due to lawmaking, has all led to a downward spiral of negative emotions for students and teachers alike, leaving many to ask, do I really need this job? Or do I really need this degree? On the flip side of that, however, the school staff are actually employing the AI to do some of their administrative work, which is lessening the load from COVID, using these tools to help with admissions processes, improve their teaching, and their retention efforts. A nonprofit, Complete College America, is working to use AI tools to equalize the scales and access to individuals when it comes to college degrees, as well as increasing the offering of online courses and decreasing the amount it costs to enter into a program. So while there definitely are some rough spots going on, there's some good stuff coming down the way, so just hang on. 3. Misinformation. We have seen the spread of misinformation bloom with the addition and availability of social media. The good news is, this has given tools to our psychologists with which to monitor the spread and understand more of how misinformation works. And with the misinformation, in combination with politics being at the center of the heated battle this year, we have gleaned some interesting results. We have learned that the falsehoods really do feed into one another, even if the person had a different view to begin with. The more inundated they are with the opposing opinion, the more likely they are to believe it. And darn it, if that's not exactly how social media gets you, by feeding you more and more of what you interacted with previously, true or not. Debunking and fact-checking are by far some of the best ways to combat these misinformative claims, but there is also a certain way one should go about showing their evidence. They work most effectively when you can prove why the information that they were providing was false by providing alternative information. If you're just trying to call it out, make sure you're not just driving people to the misinformation post by perhaps screenshotting it and then tagging your source, which is hopefully original, accurate, expert source, and adding it to that screenshot. One of the next best ways to fight against that misinformation is by building trust with our audiences. By talking about things that are squarely within the information that we study, by not going outside of our realm of expertise, and keeping it to the facts. Within the psychological community, it is within our power to help individuals recalibrate their judgments and help empower them to make their own minds up instead of listening to the character assassinations or the emotional us versus them arguments. 4. Substance abuse and interventions. As nationally, we have seen a rise in overdose deaths this year, up around 54% from the previous years, with roughly 2/3 of these deaths coming from illicit mix of fentanyl in some way. The alarm bells are raised, and we are seeking solutions. Because fentanyl is approximately 50 to 100 times more potent than heroin, and regular cannabis use is at an all-time high within our youth population, causing issues such as suicidal ideations, cyclical vomiting, and psychosis, we are seeking ways to create a positive change. We're trying to find ways to not just support users in a positive way, but also improve the chances of them successfully recovering from substance abuse. $2.5 billion has already been invested to help fund HEAL, helping to end addiction long-term, programs across the nation. Within these programs, they are helping to bridge the gap between probation officers and social workers, creating collaboration between all of the treatment providers, as well as including family members in the assistance of helping to recover individuals. A program called YOURS, or Youth Opioid Recover Support, helps train family members to learn how to become allies to their children in the program, where they can assist in making sure that their child is receiving medication to help block the effects of opioids to aid in recovery. These family members also learn about patient privacy and what things signal times to call treatment programs with concerns. Ultimately, we are creating new medications to help combat the addictive qualities of the highly accessible drugs of today's streets. We are creating monetary incentives for reaching sobriety, and we are expanding our access to resources for healthy coping. If you or a loved one is struggling with sobriety, there is help out there, and that help is only getting better. 5. Stability in the workplace. With the rise of AI and its ability to do a lot of different tasks, many in our workforce are starting to feel the pressure. We are wondering who will be replaced next by AI. How will they use AI to decrease my already measly salary? On top of that, the instability of COVID, not working consistently in a workspace, the camaraderie of the employees not really being evident because of the lack of the face-to-face communication, the fragmenting of jobs. So there's a lack of satisfaction because you're not working it from start to finish. There are a lot of reasons why work just doesn't seem as consistent and comfortable as it used to be. How are we fighting this? by creating programs in line with psychology-backed tactics to help us rebuild the workspace to a space that people can actually withstand again, if not enjoy. Bringing back the community, putting their jobs fully in their hands instead of handing parts off to other people. Opening up the communication to include what AI could bring to the table, but also how their job might shift to include both the employee and the program. 6. Psychology and technology. With the addition of some amazing technological leaps, we have gained a ton of new tools in the psychology realm. The issue, however, has arisen because the people crafting this new tech maybe weren't as in touch with psychological background as they should have been. Enter the changes. With the influx of mental health apps that are so needed, the investors have started to take a look and stopped backing projects based solely on the insights or metrics that previously were provided. And they started investing in the mental health professionals who help build them. This shift in the foundation of how these applications are going to be created, to lean more into the proper psychological assistance and not just the technology or the newness or the goal achieving, is going to be a major, amazing shift with the next round of applications. And though the availability to reach psychologists has increased, there is still a need for more of them. And honestly, with the growth of our population, people in training just can't keep up. So the addition of things like quality mental health applications that are psychology-backed could help ease some of that therapist load and redirect the flow of traffic to allow working psychologists a small reprieve. Technological advances still remain as one of the best ways to help psychology increase its overall reach and help people on an everyday basis. We have talked about a handful of the advancements that have been or are being worked on in psychology this year, but that doesn't cover all the topics that could have been included. Science, as you know, is constantly changing landscape as we learn new things and incorporate technologies that allow us to further those discoveries. I am personally looking forward to the strides that we continue to make this year in the psychological field, and what the future is going to hold. I believe that while things maybe aren't looking the best right now, we are on the precipice of a major shift. That mental health troubles and access and cost are all going to start heading in the right direction, and that with the aid of technology, though it's definitely going to be rough at first, we'll get where we're headed. And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I've enjoyed our time together. If you want to join me again for another chat, you can keep your eyes peeled every Wednesday for a new episode. Feel free to follow me at MindWealth on Instagram if you want to get to know me a little bit in the meantime. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.